4, 3, 2, 1.
Studio Classroom is recording.
Please stand by.
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. My name is Anne-Marie, and I think today is a great day to learn something new.
It certainly is. My name is Gabe. You know, Anne-Marie, I was just thinking about something because we were talking about weeds yesterday, and there's a better way to get rid of weeds. That's the name of our lesson. And, you know, I'm not sure if I have a weed near my house, but there's something crawling up the side of my house.
There's something crawling on your house. A plant?
A plant. It's not an animal.
Okay.
It's not a bug. It's not a snake or anything.
Okay.
But it's a plant. And it's, you know, it grows pretty fast and it gets really curly. And our air conditioning unit is right outside. And it grows into the air conditioning unit.
It sounds like you have a vine growing on the outside of your house.
That's it. It must be a vine from our neighbors down below.
Oh.
Yeah, and so every once in a while we have to find some way to get rid of the vine. And what we usually do is just take a pair of scissors and cut the vine where it's growing.
Oh, well, vines grow pretty fast. When I was growing up, we had a plant in our garden. We were growing peas, and peas actually grow on a vine. And I know they would grow all over the place unless we gave them something to climb up. So what we used to do is put poles in the ground so that they could climb up the poles.
Are you saying you can direct or guide a vine in where it's growing?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Well, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe that's what lattices are for, right? Those, they look kind of like white fences, but then they're just outside the window a little bit.
Yes.
Oh, I got to get one of those. All right, well, friends, hey, are vines weeds?
I think some of them are. The peas in our garden weren't, but it sounds like the one on your house definitely is.
Well, I think I just came up with a better way to get rid of that vine weed anyway. That's what we're going to learn more about today, friends. There is a better way to get rid of weeds than using herbicides. Let's talk about that as we get into our first reading right now.
A better way to get rid of weeds. Killing weeds. After weeds have already invaded your flower bed or garden, you obviously have to find a way to remove them. There are two basic methods: physical removal and mechanical removal. Physical removal. When using this method, you are literally destroying the weeds by pulling them out of the ground. You can pull out the weeds by hand or dig them out with a shovel. This method is generally very effective, but it takes effort. Mechanical removal. This method, which uses a weed eater or a lawnmower, mows weeds down to the ground. It doesn't take out the roots, though, so the weeds will grow back.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 我们先来看 removal 这个名词，意思是移开或除去。Stain removal 就是去污渍的意思。譬如 What kind of stain removal do you use on your clothes? 你的衣服都用哪种方式去污渍呢？或者是 The removal of the tree means that we get more light in our living room. 这棵树被移走后，我们客厅更明亮了。Removal 另外一个意思是免职或开除。例如 The mayor's removal from office meant there had to be a new election. 市长被免职后，表示必须重新选市长了。接着我们来看 take out 这个片语动词，意思是取出或拿出去。譬如 Sharon had to go to the doctor to get her stitches taken out. Sharon 必须去看医生，把缝线拆掉。或者是 Mrs. Brown told the class to take out their books and turn to page 75. Brown 老师叫全班同学把书本拿出来，翻到第75页。再看一个例句。My son's job is to take out the garbage every evening. 我儿子的工作就是每天晚上把垃圾拿到外面去。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you so much, Jack. Well, yesterday we learned about how herbicides are really bad for the environment. They harm things and animals with their toxic chemicals. But today we're going to find out some better options when it comes to weeding our gardens. How does our lesson begin today?
Well, first of all, just want to remind you that we can use the word weed as a verb, just like Anne-Marie just did. You want to weed your gardens, right? You're getting rid of the weeds. And we're talking about killing weeds here. After weeds have already invaded your flower bed or garden, you obviously have to find a way to remove them. Okay, let's talk about flower beds here, because this kind of reminded me of the phrase, a bed of roses.
Oh, I never really understood that phrase because to me a bed of roses would be pretty uncomfortable.
What makes you say that?
Roses have thorns.
They do have thorns, right? Yeah, so what's up with that phrase? Why does a bed of roses mean a very pleasant situation? That's kind of an interesting question, right? But that's what it means, a bed of roses. And often we would say, oh, something is no bed of roses. It's a way of communicating. You might think it's cool or comfortable, but it's actually not that easy. It's kind of difficult. What is no bed of roses? Parenting. Parenting is no bed of roses. Weight loss. You might think it might be easy to lose weight, but it's actually usually pretty difficult. It's no bed of roses. Maybe it makes you think of that song by Bon Jovi called Bed of Roses.
Well, we are learning about two different types of weed removal here. There's physical removal and mechanical removal. All right, now the word mechanical here we're going to learn is going to use something physical to remove the weeds like a machine or a piece of equipment. But we're going to talk about physical removal first. When using this method, you are literally destroying the weeds by pulling them out of the ground by hand.
Yeah, you're using your hands to pull them out of the ground. And I would say that we're trying to get to the root, right? We're trying to get to the root of the weeds. That's why this is a very it could be a tiring task for you to do, but that is physical removal. You could actually use your hands, make sure you're wearing gloves, all right? Use your hands to get those roots out. Or you could maybe use a tool like a shovel or a hoe. Right?
Yeah, that's true. And those kind of tools are some common tools that you can use in a garden for gardening. Another common tool is a trowel. That's kind of like a shovel, but it's shorter. It's about this long. Or a rake. A rake is usually used for leaves or to rake up the weeds after you've pulled them out of the ground.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. There are a lot of different tools that you could use. Our lesson does mention using a shovel. Now, this method is generally very effective, but as I was saying before, it's tiring. As our lesson says, it takes effort, right? It's no bed of roses trying to weed your garden.
All right, well, now we're going to talk about mechanical removal here. This method, which uses a weed eater or a lawnmower, mows weeds down to the ground. Now, I see that word weed eater here. Is that the same thing as a weed whacker?
Hey, that's what I usually call it too. I think it's referring to the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, some people call it a weed eater, some people call it a weed whacker. And these things actually, I've never used one, but I've seen people use them. They actually look very dangerous. You don't want to get really close to someone who's using a weed whacker because it looks like there's a long string or some long strings that come out that spin around very fast.
Yeah, and I believe in some versions there can be a blade in them as well. So you have to be really, really careful when operating this type of machinery. Now, there is a negative aspect of this kind of mechanical removal, and that is that the roots aren't taken out when you're weeding your garden, so the weeds will grow back.
Yeah, you want to make sure you get to those roots, right? Hey, speaking of growing back, a lot of things take time and effort, right? Let's learn about effort right now in today's Info Cloud.
Hi friends, welcome to InfoCloud. Andrea, how is the new intern doing?
Oh, he gets an A for effort, but we can't use any of the games he wrote. They're too hard.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Let's talk more about the phrase A for effort. It is a verbal appreciation for attempting a task, even if it did not produce a successful result.
Yes, now we can say the boys get an A for effort. They painted the room, but they painted it in the wrong color. They did a good job, but we'll have to repaint it later.
A for effort has been used since the 1940s. The letter A is the best grade you can get in the US school system. So to get an A for effort means you have tried hard, even if you did not get a good result in the end.
It's like studying hard for a test, but not getting a good score when you took the test.
I think this phrase has some merit as it points out hard work should be acknowledged, even if it did not lead to the outcome you were hoping for.
Yes, I agree. Hard work should be appreciated. Well, friends, next time someone works hard but did not get the result they were hoping for, use A for effort to encourage them.
不管做什么事情，努力是很重要的，即使不一定会成功。今天分享的用语 A for effort 就是用来肯定人们所付出的努力。A 代表考试当中最高的分数 ，effort 是努力 ，A for effort 就是努力得到了认同，只不过没有带来成功。Peter didn't pass the test, but he gets an A for effort. Peter 没有通过考试，但是他付出了相当大的努力，值得肯定。A for effort 可以用来鼓励和安慰还没有成功的人。这就是今天的 Info Cloud， 我们下次云端见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Welcome back. Okay, friends, here's a little quiz for you. We talked about something earlier that can help you get rid of weeds. It is...
Your hands.
Yes, it was. Let me be a little more specific.
Oh, you weren't thinking of hands.
I was thinking of a mechanical type of removal.
Oh.
Yeah, so you could use a lawnmower.
Or a weed whacker.
That's what I was thinking of. I love that word.
Weed whacker.
Weed whacker. Or our lesson says weed eater, right? Okay, well, let's continue learning right now.
A better way to get rid of weeds. Preventing weeds. Here are some tips to keep weeds from invading in the first place. Use a mulch made of wood chips to keep the weeds from growing. Cover the ground with landscape fabrics or plastic sheeting. Plant ground cover or low-growing plants to cover the ground. Place garden plants close together to crowd out the weeds. By using some of these natural methods, you can keep your garden looking superb without using dangerous herbicides that could damage your health and the environment.
OK， 接下来看 crowd out 这个片语动词，意思是把什么挤出去或是排挤。譬如 The weeds crowded out all of my carrot plants. 杂草把我种的胡萝卜都挤掉了。或者是 The kids and their friends crowded Marie and Bob out of their living room. 孩子们和他们的朋友把 Marie 和 Bob 从客厅赶了出去。再举个例句 ：So many restaurants opened up in the area that the one we really liked got crowded out. 这个地区开了好多餐厅，把我们真正喜欢的餐厅给挤走了。最后来看 superb 这个形容词，意思是极好的、杰出的。譬如 Alice's speech was superb, so she won first prize. Alice 的演讲精彩极了，所以她拿到了第一名。或者是 Our family had superb weather during our vacation at the beach, so we really enjoyed ourselves. 我们一家人在海滩度假时，天气超级好，所以我们玩得非常开心。再举个例句 Everyone agrees that James is a superb manager. 每个人都同意 James 是一位出色的经理。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
All right, thank you so much, Jack. Well, now we are going to learn in this final part of our lesson about preventing weeds. Here are some tips to keep weeds from invading in the first place. Now, before we learn what these tips are, let's talk about that phrase, in the first place.
Yeah, this means in the beginning, but we use it when talking about the things that you should be thinking about at any stage in the process, especially at the beginning of a process or before something even happens, you should be considering something. That's when we use this phrase, in the first place, before something happens.
And I've noticed that we often say this phrase when something bad has already happened. Like you should have done this in the first place, or you shouldn't have done that in the first place. We say this in the middle of a situation that's already going bad. Like, for example, you shouldn't have gone out so late in the first place. If I say that sentence, you can probably imagine that something bad has happened, like getting locked out of the house or something like that.
Yeah, or, okay, so your son spilled some water on the ground. Well, you shouldn't have left the cup so close to the edge of the table in the first place, right? Think of another situation where you could use that phrase. So our lesson is saying that we can prevent weeds, right? There are some tips to keep weeds from invading in the first place. This also made me think of preventative measures.
Oh.
Yeah, because our lesson uses the verb to prevent something. That means to stop something from happening. So what are some things that you can do to stop something from happening? Those are called preventative measures or preventive measures.
That's right. All right, well, the first one we're going to talk about here, the first tip for preventing weeds is use a mulch made of wood chips to keep the weeds from growing. Now, this is something that my family and I did when I was growing up.
What?
Mulched. We would, because you can also use mulched as a verb, or mulch as a verb. That's the action of putting down wood chips to keep weeds from growing. We would mulch my mom's flower bed every spring so that we wouldn't have to manually remove those weeds, or excuse me, physically remove those weeds when they would come up.
Well, Anne-Marie, I like the fact that you said manually, because when we're physically removing weeds, we are manually removing those weeds. And I've never used mulch before, maybe because I've never worked with a garden, but mulch, you know what it always reminds me of?
Oh, what's that?
Playgrounds, especially in the West.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, often there will be like, you know, pits full of mulch, or the playgrounds, instead of having kind of a pad on the ground, they might have mulch where kids are running around in. So mulch could be used for different reasons, but they're basically wood chips, and they keep the weeds from growing. They prevent the weeds from growing.
All right, well, the next tip we have here is to cover the ground with landscape fabrics or plastic sheeting. We're also talking about planting ground cover or low-growing plants to cover the ground. Now, I really, really like this option because you're actually adding more flowers or plants to your garden.
Okay, now low-growing plants, that reminds me of a plant called the inch plant. It's actually a very beautiful plant, and it grows in the wild as well, but I kind of like it. Maybe you want to get something like an inch plant for your garden.
All right, friends, well, I hope you have enjoyed this lesson as we have been talking about a better way to remove weeds. Speaking of the word remove, that would be a great word for us to learn about in today's skit.
Hello. Okay, please remove your shoes.
Take off my shoes?
Yes, sir. Remove them from your feet and put them in the tray.
Okay, okay, all right.
And remove your jacket.
Take off my jacket?
Yes, sir. Remove it and place it in the tray. And please remove your laptop from its case.
Okay, all right. All right, there's the jacket. And then the laptop, okay. All right, there we go.
Put it in with the other belongings. Good, sir.
Okay, all right. Now what?
Do you have anything in your pockets?
Yeah, I have some keys and I have coins here.
Remove all the items from your pocket, sir.
All right, there are the keys and my coins. Anything else?
Yes, please remove your watch or any jewelry.
Okay, yeah, I have a watch here. Okay. There we go.
All right. Now, place your arms out straight.
Okay.
Okay.
What? Oh! I'm sorry. I forgot my wallet.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay, great.
Is that all?
Yes, you may remove your items from the tray.
Okay, great.
And then kindly remove yourself. Next.
Okay, all right.
Take it. Take it. Next.
Well, friends, in the last 2 days, we have learned about some natural ways to remove weeds. And this has me thinking, are there other things in our life that we could use natural ways instead of chemicals to solve the problems? For example, natural remedies when you're sick or something like that. Do you have any natural remedies or natural products you like to use, Gabe?
Man, honey and lemon is really good, right? So if you make maybe some honey lemonade or something like that, that could really help if you have some kind of problem. It might help you feel better anyway. Mint is supposed to be good for certain types of pain. Turmeric, you know, that spice or that herb that you find in curry, that's supposed to be really good as well for inflammation. But I also think about things that you can use to clean up around the house.
That's what I use. I don't like to use chemicals in my house. I don't like to kill the bacteria with like Clorox, those wipes or anything like that.
Sure.
I usually use vinegar in my home so that I can keep the chemicals away from my kids.
I heard vinegar is good for so many things, right? Obviously, some people like to actually drink, you know, apple vinegar and that type of thing. But, you know, when I'm cleaning things like maybe my coffee machine, every once in a while, I put, you know, vinegar water in there, and I kind of turn on the machine then, and it helps to clean the machine. What do you use vinegar for? Like wiping things down?
Yeah, I'll use it to clean the floors, or like you said, maybe if I have some pots and pans that are especially stinky or need a little bit of refreshing, or if there's a cat smell in my house, vinegar is really good for getting cat smells out of different things.
That's a really good point. And it's a great thing for us to think about, friends. There are so many ways that people get rid of bad things, and a lot of those things require chemicals. But we should think about natural ways to solve some of these problems, just like we talked about in our lesson about getting rid of weeds. That is all the time we have for today. But do think about that. How can you get rid of bad things in a natural way or using natural things? We'll see you next time right here on
Studio Classroom.
A good friend lasts a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.